Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Weber, and today we have an extraordinary panel because it involves interdimensionally a very, very large body of entities and two representatives here from these interdimensional bodies. The first is Tolec, who is here representing the entity of the Andromeda Council, and he will be telling more about that. Welcome, Tolec.
Hey, Alfred. Good to be here again.
Thank you. And also with us is Ray K. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did, Alfred. Good to be here. Good to see you.
And Ray is a multi-generational contactee. His grandfather was contactees. His father was. And Ray has been with us, and he has shown 32 different species of interdimensional extraterrestrials that he has been in contact with us. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you, Alfred. Good to be here.
Now, first of all, I'd like to speak with Tolec. Tolec has some updates for us. I understand that you'll be making your public debut soon. Could you tell us all about that, Tolec?
Sure, certainly. First, I'll give everyone a backdrop. In April of 2011, I had already been attending with a bunch of friends of mine over the course of, 15, 17 years, a number of different local MUFON meetings. And I said to a buddy of mine, Roger Scher, who's the Assistant State Section Director, Pima County MUFON at that time, we were talking, and he said, "Hey, Louis Torrey is going to be late. Would you mind getting up and talking?" I went, yeah, okay. So Louis ended up being 45 minutes late instead of 15 minutes late. And that was exactly at the same time that I had finished about a month and a half worth of work to publish for the first time the Andromeda Council website. And I had had a number of different experiences. So I got in front of my, at that time, adopted hometown crowd, in front of people who I'd known for the past 15 years, and they said, "What's he doing up there?" So I told my story. And I watched all these faces as they looked at me in disbelief. So that was the first time I had an opportunity to tell about my contact experiences in August of 1993, the fact that I went back in time 3 separate times over about a week and a half period. The man that was the piloting that spacecraft, that scout craft at that time, I came to later learn that he is in fact the same gentleman who's the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere. Now that's a really short version of the story, but suffice it to say that yes, in Pagosa Springs, Colorado on August the 16th, a Sunday evening, I'll be speaking in front of a group of people, 100, 150, something like that, with Mark Kimmel, and I'll be making my first formal presentation. What I did in Tucson was 1/2 hour of extemporaneous ad lib and about 20 minutes of answering questions. This time around, I'm actually going to be producing an actual presentation with a lot of the material I've done over years, plus some recent information as well. And then a few days later, beginning August 19th through the 23rd, I'll be in front of thousands of people at the 2015 Mount Shasta conference. And Rob Potter is promoting that conference, and I'll be speaking with Rob Potter, Alex Collier, who's my predecessor as an Andromeda Council contactee, Omnik, who's the woman who's supposed to be a galactic ambassador from Venus, Craig Campobasso, and your counterpart, Michael Sala. So it's right. Going to be, it's going to be an interesting bunch of people, I'm sure. Very, very interesting. So that's kind of what's going on in my life these days.
And so when we say coming out party, is that ever since I've known you, and we did a whole series of programs several years ago.
Yes.
You and I think, I'm not sure whether this was an agreement with your contacts, but you did not show your face. Perhaps it was because of business or other personal reasons. But you now are going to come out as a person. Is that what you're going to do?
It's interesting that you bring this up. Everything that you've said is absolutely true and accurate. There were multiple reasons why I didn't, and why I'm not doing it right now. But that's going to change, as I've just said. Let me address it this way. The reason that I've decided to speak publicly in front of people is because, simply from an intuitive place in the totality of who I am, at least for me, this seems to be the right time to do it. Not so much for me, but for people that are trying to understand and grasp all the changes that are happening right now. And they're happening at a rapid pace. And I've had a couple of 2, 3, 4 conversations with people I really trust, and they felt very deeply that the kind of impact that I would leave by having people be able to see me and see me teach and express what I've been teaching, for them to see it in person would have far greater gravitas and impact than just me talking in a YouTube interview. And so after weighing those things that those people said and sort of filtering it through my own essence, I decided that it would be a wise thing to do. Part B of that is I'd considered, do I use much, like a writer, as somebody who's an author and they use a ghost name, come up with a completely different name. I thought of that. Do I use my own personal name? I thought of that. And then it was one of those, a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to do anything different really than I'm doing, which is, as of next month, we've got 4 years of history of Tolec speaking and reporting on the assaults and the closures and the destruction of Draco-reptilian undersea and underground bases, and all the different white papers I've written and all the different interviews. The world knows me as Tolec. And in the world of business, that name has brand recognition. So if I get up in front of people and gave a couple different names, it wouldn't register, wouldn't mean anything to them. They know me as Tolec. So I'm going to be in front of people. They'll be able to see me speak. And my name's Tolec. That's the public work persona name that the people of the Andromeda Council gave me. And since it has traction and it has brand recognition, I'm just going to stick with that name. And that's kind of the logic process that I went through in terms of how do I do this next.
Right. Now, say if those of us who are in the media world, say if we would have an interview with you, say later on in the year or at the beginning of next year, would we get to have a face-to-face?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Colorado, it's actually August 16th, Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Mark Kimmel and I will be having, he's calling it Epic Event. That's the name he's given this event. But it's going to be a rather intimate setting with 125, 150 people, small as conferences go. So I will be speaking publicly on my own and with Mark live in front of people. Same thing with Mount Shasta, California. So after these 2 dates, people can see my face. Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
No.
Excellent.
Sure.
Very, very good.
And I'll be happy to dive into and share any details that you want to hear about in terms of my own experiences in terms of ET contact. You ask the questions and I'll answer them.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that. In fact, as the next order of our dynamic here on this panel before we get to the broader issue. And the broader issue, as you know, what really brought our panel together was to look at the time period 2015 to 2025 from what each of your interdimensional sources are saying, what will be the progression, so far as they are saying, of planetary transformation over that time period, so that we begin to get something, you know, of a guideline as we begin to move through time space.
Sure.
But before we even get to that, in fact, we had talked about it just shortly before going on the panel today. As you know, over the past couple of weeks, there's been more and more concern. There's a couple of whistleblowers came forward, and now there's a couple of cases. One, the blue avian meme that was first made public by James Corey, who's AKA also known as Corey Good. That was an acronym given to him by Bill Ryan of Project Avalon. Corey Good ET, which was a videotape apparently that his wife Christine Anderson made of James Corey in a healing that was then edited down, made into a disclosure tape, even though he was a MyLab victim. And so the concern, and I know that I went public on this based on the information and then my own analysis on July 26th, 2015. We're taping this on July 30th, 2015, that this blue avian meme may in fact not be a true exophenotype, because James Corey is a MyLab victim, and the MyLab program, as we all know, it's basically a mind control program where MyLab victims are given an artificial experience of having ET interaction. So there was no underlying ET interaction there, or it could have been
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. And then just today, I learned, and we published it at exopolitics.com, there's his name is Sandia the ET. Sandia means watermelon in Spanish, but it's also Sandia National Labs in New Mexico, which is a Black Ops federal lab. And this is an alleged ET who's now on Twitter wanting to land in New Mexico. And it's got quite the audience. People are treating it as genuine.
I can't help but laugh.
I was approached by the head of a very serious non-governmental organization who was drawn into this. It's a non-governmental organization in the mind control area, and they approached me and said, Alfred, we need you to consult on this because we don't know what's going on here. And I went and I said, look, this is probably an artificial intelligence mind control meme if it's not somebody pulling your leg, but it looks pretty advanced. And my advice is don't get enmeshed in it. So these two memes, the blue avians and the Sandia ET on Twitter, it seems to me that they are really muddying the waters, among other things, of genuine interdimensional information with genuine contactees, in Ray's case, multi-generational, coming from his grandfather to his father to Ray, which is a known phenomenon.
Right.
And so before we even went forward in the panel, because even though Tolec, you and I have been doing programs for a long time, and with Ray, we've had in-depth conversations.
Right.
We really like to re-educate everybody and really establish that in the case of each of you gentlemen, this is not artificial intelligence that you're dealing with. These are genuine, non-governmental.
Right. And I can even tell a story that will provide third-party corroboration of one of the experiences that I had.
Sure.
And I know I told it in snippets before, but since we're in essence going to spend some time re-vetting both myself and Raymond, anytime we can provide independent third-party corroboration of things that have happened to us, that's good for everybody involved.
Exactly.
Because it says there's real substance.
Yeah, so please, if you could just unpack for or just kind of bring us into,
sure.
As you see fit, just the background and showing that this is not an AI phenomenon, that this is a genuine exophenotype interdimensional experience, and that these are real communications that are coming interdimensionally.
Okay. Did you want me to dive into them now and just tell them sort of one story at a time? Okay.
Yeah.
Ray, are you okay over there?
I'm fine. I'm listening, buddy.
Good. Okay.
Because after this, we're going to go to Ray.
Okay. Alrighty.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're going to put you and your 32 guys in the spot.
33, but 33 sounds good. Yeah.
The number jumped. Who's new on the bandwagon?
33 is a giant bird, people. Alfred knows that. But during the time we did the interview was 32.
Okay. All right, rewind. I moved from the Northeast to Tucson, Arizona in the winter of '91. And in the summer, boy, I haven't told the story in a while. The summer of '93, pretty sure it was '93, I was sleeping. Summer for anybody in the Northern Hemisphere, in this case. Tucson, whether it's, Colorado, Arizona, or New Mexico, or I don't know, Virginia. August is summer. So in any case, so I'm sleeping. It's about 3:45 in the morning, and I'm in a deep sleep, and I hear this gentleman communicating with me. Now, I'm not on the phone. I can hear him speaking with me in my mind. Thomas Hughes calls it mind speak. Other people call it telepathy. In any case, so I'm having this telepathy in sort of a foggy state, and I kind of wake up and I go, who is this? He goes, you know who I am. You got a job to do. I went, okay, all right. What am I supposed to do? He said, you got to get dressed. You got to get in your vehicle. I had traded in my car from the Northeast, and I was driving a beat up 4-wheel drive, kind of off-road Ford Bronco 2. So I got to, I'm in Arizona. I could go off-road if I wanted to. He said, you got to get your vehicle. You got to get on I-10, head down the highway, get onto 19, and take the exit where the San Javier mission is. I said, yeah, okay. And then what? He said, well, there's going to be a little dirt road. Get off this dirt road, go through the desert about a quarter mile or so, and I'll be there waiting for you. I'm like, really? It's 4 a.m. Yeah, hurry up. You got to go. Okay, fine. So I get up, go to the bathroom, get dressed, hop in the Bronco, head down the highway. And I get there, it's probably 4:20, 4:25. Take the exit, go over the dirt road. It's kind of washboardy, but there was a little bit of a dip. I came out of the dip over this tiny little rise, and I looked through my windshield, and there's this silvery, round scout craft. People call them UFO. And there's this tall guy with dark hair in a one-piece jumpsuit standing outside the craft. So my eyes are bugging out. I stopped the Bronco. I was probably at about 100 to 150 feet away from him at that point. And I stopped. I hopped out of the vehicle. I looked at him, and I'm waving at him like, hey, good to see you. Long time no see. And he's yelling back at me. And he's not yelling, but waving like, come on, you get over here. So I'm like, oh, it's good to see you again. So he's like, will you please hurry up? So I'm like, okay. So I get in the Bronco, I drive over. And so I go up to him, I give him a hug, and he said, we got to get out of here. I said, well, yeah, but it's good to see you again. And, we got so much to talk about. For some reason, I knew this guy. He said, we got to get out of here. It's going to be daylight soon. I don't necessarily want to see a whole bunch of people leaving from the greater Tucson area going to work, see this ship sitting here. Okay. So he said, quick, before we leave, you got to take this pill. The pill will change the frequency of your vibration so that you can take this trip. Well, okay, where are we going? He said, well, we're going to Western Kentucky or Western Virginia back into the 1840s. What? Okay. We did that. I did that with him 3 separate times over the course of about a week and a half. And on all 3 trips, we were watching from the view screen inside the ship a family of 4. Now, everything is rural back then. So rural Kentucky, rural West Virginia. A mom, dad, a young boy, 9 or 10 years old, and a daughter, 4 or 5. They live on a farm. There's woods everywhere. They've got their crops. On trip 3, I observed the barn on the property going up in flames. There was a fire. And as we're watching all of this unfold, this gentleman who's the commander of the Primary Andromeda Council Biosphere and I learned that the daughter was in the barn. She had been doing something with the animals, or who knows, but she passed due to smoke inhalation, fortunately. And we also, therefore, had to experience the family and their grief, the loss, the grieving, the extreme sadness that they all felt for the loss of their daughter. The father took it especially hard. This little girl was kind of the jewel of his eye. She was his favorite, and it hit him really, really hard. It bothered me as well. It was just really difficult to watch that situation. And before we left that scene and came back to present day 1993, I asked this guy, the commander of the biosphere, I said, why did you bring me back in time 3 times just to show me this event? He gave me 2 answers. He said, well, first of all, in future generations, or if you back engineer time, you are related to these people. So they're actually family of yours. He said, but more importantly, as higher dimensional people, and he's never taken a 3D body. He's never incarnated in an organic human body on planet Earth. He's a higher dimensional human, but he's never incarnated and taken a 3D organic body. He said, as a higher dimensional human, we don't experience death. We'll live 7,000 or 8,000 years and decide, okay, we've learned enough, had enough experiences as an upper level 4D person, we're ready to become 5D. Or we've lived enough 5D situations over the course of thousands of years and we're going to evolve and become 6D. So that's how we do it. We don't know what it's like to experience death. Because we're going to be visiting with you and your people more and more and more in the coming years, we want to better understand the total breadth of your emotional range and your emotional experiences. So he's saying, I could do this vicariously through you, by feeling what you're feeling, by watching what you're watching, to help us better understand the full breadth of human emotions on planet Earth. Because you guys experience death, we don't. And at the end of the third trip, he gave me a choice. I could either stay with that family and if you will, transmute myself, I guess, remain a higher dimensional person, and become a guide for them as they went forward in their lives. Or I could go back to Earth and to my life and continue to live as an organic human, 1993 forward. I'm still here, so I know what choice I made. That's the first story. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or I can move on to the second story.
Yeah, let's go forward to the second story.
Okay, second story. It's either, I think it was later that year in September, or the next year, one of the two, but the time reference, it was the same. It was late summer, like late September, early October. And in Tucson, that's still summer, let me tell you. I was, again, in my bed, in deep sleep. And in this particular situation, I was having what you might call a dream experience, except that this experience was very real. And we can talk about the difference between higher dimensional etheric body selves being out of our bodies and experiencing something as compared to a dream. They're two totally different things. So I was having this higher dimensional out of body experience, and I was on board a local Andromeda Council flagged touring ship, scout. It was bigger than a scout. It was bigger than a scout ship, but it wasn't, kind of like a Galaxy class ship. It was a local touring ship. It was based on Earth, and it was based in the general Tucson area. There are at least 4 good ET bases that are in the general Tucson area, and this ship came out of one of those bases. So I and a cadre of other people, I want to say 10 to 12 other people, were being given a tour of this ship, and we were being shown the geology of the region. And we were, I want to say, somewhere southeast of Tucson. And I remember as we were being given this tour in the ship that it started to have a little bit of a bumpy ride. For many people who've flown on jets, we know what turbulence feels like. So we were starting to feel some turbulence. And there's this group of us, or 10 or 12 of us, and there's this kid, this young ensign, that comes running up to the gentleman who is being given the tour. He would be the equivalent of an operations officer, not the CEO of a ship, the COO. And this white-faced young ensign is saying to this XO, "Sir, we've got a problem. Moreover, we've got real problems. We can't fix them. This ship is going down." And as he's saying that, the ship not only is in a turbulent situation, but it starts to pitch and roll back and forth. And I remember clearly seeing and hearing women and children of humanoid races and other races running around, yelling, screaming. And this young ensign continues to say to this XO, "Sir, we're going down. We can't fix the problem." I learned later in a subsequent conversation with my guys that the problem was like a gyro system that keeps those craft balanced. It was busted. It couldn't be fixed. It would have to go to space dock somewhere for a long dismantling and complete rebuild, and they couldn't fix it. So I then wake up. Parenthetically, wake up. I rise out of bed, and my body's hot, and I have a cold sweat, and I am profoundly sad. Profoundly, profoundly sad. I don't know why I'm profoundly sad. I'm just profoundly sad. I was working in the healthcare software industry at that time. that same morning, so I know I get settled down, I go to the bathroom, I get back in bed, and I go to sleep. And I wake up, 7:30, shower, shave, put my suit, coat, and tie on, go to work. I worked all day until about 4:20, 4:25. And I picked up the phone and called this buddy of mine who I had befriended about a year earlier, the gentleman who was at that time the Pima County State Section Director, Roger Scher. I said, "Hey, Raj, are you free?" He said, yeah, go ahead. I said, "Well, I've got a story I've got to tell you, and you're the only person who I thought I could tell and that you would believe me because of this role that you hold." He said, "Okay." So I told him the whole story, the story that I just told you and Raymond. And he listened very quietly, as he always did. And he said, "How many people have you told this story to?" And I said, "None." I said, you know me, I'm working during the day. I got my suit and tie on. I have work to do. I said, I've gotten through most of my day. It's now 4:25. And I felt, okay, I can actually take some personal time, pick up the phone, give my friend a call, and I'll run this by him. He says, "You're sure?" I'm like, "Raj, we've known each other for a year now. You know me well enough." He's like, yeah. But he says, I'm just, I'm the skeptic. I have a responsible position for MUFON. Field agents report to me. I have to make sure that what I'm hearing is the truth. So I said, "Yes, Raj, I haven't called anybody else. I haven't told anybody this story." He said, "Okay. Sometime," so now this is Roger speaking. He says, "Sometime around 3:30, 24 this morning, I got a phone call from one of our MUFON field investigators. And they live out in the Reddington Pass region. And they were aware of, because they watched it happen, a number of emergency vehicles, both marked and unmarked, military type, that were scrambling to the Reddington Pass area because a ship had crashed." And the same chills I'm getting now are the same chills that I had when Roger told this to me. He said it was an ET craft. The ship went down. It was a horrific crash. There were 125 lives lost.
Wow.
And that's why, at least from the facts he was providing, that's why from an emotional perspective, I woke up in that hot and cold sweat, because at some level, I knew that crash resulted in a pretty awful accident. It's my understanding that there were like 127 people on board. Mm-hmm. 2 people made it, survived. One of the 2 eventually died. I think there was 1 survivor overall. 125 lives, humanoid, as well as other ET races that were all organic at that time, and they all lost their lives. And that was a tough experience for me to have. It certainly verified in my own mind that there was a lot more going on in my life than I had understood up until that point in time. The third story definitely happened the next summer or 2 years later. And again, I was in the sleep state. And I remember watching what essentially would be construed as the bombardment of planet Earth. I can't tell you if, I'm not able to discern whether they were meteors, asteroids, or missiles. I don't know. It's just that my spiritual essence was out in space, and I was watching the planet get bombarded. And after what seemed to be 10 or 12 minutes of watching this, I was getting pretty afraid. And right in front of my field of view, this, let's say a screen would be, 7 inches wide by 4 inches high as my field of view. Right in front of my field of view came this big round circle, and inside the circle was an upside down triangle. And as soon as I saw this image, everything stopped. And I calmed down, and then I went back into the sleep state, or my spiritual essence re-entered my body. And after subsequent conversations with the gentleman who's the commander of the Andromeda Council Biosphere, I found out that piece, that visual piece of imagery, has a specific resonance to it. And moreover, it is a universal sign of peace across the cosmos for traveling races as they visit each other. A circle, again, with an upside down triangle, or it could be an upside down pyramid, but it still looks the same. It's a universal cosmic sign of peace. I've got a whole bunch of other stories. I'll tell you a really small one. I was again in an altered state, if you will. I don't know if it was dream or out of body. I was on a beach somewhere, and I watched what would be the equivalent of a shuttlecraft go screaming down a beach. So kind of like I am on the beach and the water's out in front of me, and I watched this shuttlecraft go screaming down the beach. I don't know what elevation it was at, except that I could clearly see its shape, and I could clearly see markings. And two things happened. One is I was able to find out what race that the craft belonged to. The markings that were on the craft at the tail end of each wingtip, left and right, there was what looked to be an elongated ace of spades. That's the symbol that I saw. Interestingly enough, about 6 years later, I was in a dentist's office. And I picked up, I think it was a Business Week magazine, and there was a mocked up, if you will, a draft image of the new shuttlecraft that never went into service. And this shuttle was a dead ringer for this thing I saw screaming down the beach. It was delta-shaped. It had wings, it had broad delta-shaped wings that went out, and the tips of the wings turned up. I saw a decided cockpit in the back. It was almost the exact same ship that I saw in a higher dimensional state 6 years earlier. It just didn't have the emblem of this elongated ace of spades on either side. And I have the information written down, but I learned exactly who that ship belonged to and who the emblem belonged to. I've got a whole bunch of other stories, but those are the predominant four that tell me that I'm experiencing something that is, certainly out of the norm for an Earth human. When people ask me, bless you, when people ask me, I simply say, hey, listen, I'm just one guy that's having extraordinary experiences. They're jaw-dropping extraordinary experiences, but
right.
they're extraordinary, without a doubt.
Right. Now, one kind of follow-up question is this. Going from there, you've now moved into a position, I think, where you're saying, I am reporting to Earth for what an organized body is telling me, called the Andromeda Council, and you have a very detailed view of this council and of sort of what the unfoldment of astronomical events are around the planet, and of different what kind of things are happening regarding the reptilians, the Dracos, and
Sure.
sort of the influx over time of different large astronomical events, and a view and various things about dimensional events that will be happening over time.
Mm-hmm.
That may have happened, some of which are open to interpretation.
Well said.
How is it that you went from these different experiences to that particular
Okay.
position that you have now.
Yeah, now I understand the question. Okay. I'll give this greater context. The first thing I'll do is provide a definition for people so that they have an opportunity to clearly understand what the Andromeda Council is. First of all, and I provided this additional definition, I think it was about a month ago with Andrew Fisher in his Nature of Reality program, but I'll do it again.
Okay.
On planet Earth, also known as Terra, the Andromeda Council is known as the Andromeda Council.
Right.
Up in space, they are predominantly known as the Galactic Council. And please understand that what we have are words that have been created as a way to, in a textual sense, in a textual sense, as in text, provide a definition for something that's been provided visually. Because a lot of the information that I get is not only auditory in my mind, a lot of it comes through, in terms of communications, through pictures, through snapshot images, through, short movie clips. And more importantly, because of my own higher dimensional spirit essence self attending Andromeda Council / Galactic Council meetings, as well as me physically attending over 100 plus my Earth human body physically attending these meetings. So the Andromeda Council is an intergalactic, interstellar, and interdimensional governance and development body of aligned, benevolent star systems and planets of sentient, intelligent life, and does this for worlds in both the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies. There are 12 senior member star systems with home planets that have official senior membership. There are upwards of 300 others that have junior membership. And think of the Andromeda Council, aka Galactic Council, as a deep space, intergalactic, interstellar UN. It's essentially United Nations. And the day-to-day operations that coordinates trade, establishes protocol for contact, for social interaction, for interaction of artistic expression, of music, of education. All of that is managed on a day-to-day basis by an entity called the Galactic Federation. And the Federation itself has its own member seat in the Andromeda Council. They are the 10th most senior member. And they are based in the Tau Ceti star system. So it is highly structured, much like the United Nations. United Nations is highly structured. Part of the Andromeda Council are much like the UN. It has subcommittees or advisory boards. Now this will tie into what I've learned about myself. The ambassador from the planet Dakota, which revolves around the star Tegeta, the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, the woman who's the chief medical officer of all of the biospheres, all of these people are from the planet Dakota in the Tegeta star system in the Pleiades. My original soul essence was birthed in the Tegeta star system on the planet Dakota. I guess the best way to say this is that as someone who's from Dakota, who has a special membership role on the council, it is the work of these people, including my work, as someone from the planet Dakota, to come here to Earth, to live an Earth human life in this Earth human body. And like other people at the correct moment in my life, for lack of better words, I was activated. I was caused to have certain experiences that made me come to understand that I'm much more than this organic human body that articulates, that walks and talks and thinks and speaks and writes and plays the Native American flute and swims and plays tennis. There's more to me than just this body. And what's more to me is the fact that there's a far bigger spiritual essence that's stuffed inside this little human body that came alive and, if you will, was awakened to the fact that I'm here because in some part, this is the job that I was supposed to do in this lifetime.
Exactly.
This is the work that I'm supposed to do here on planet. I would call it that of being a liaison. Another way to say it would be that of being a teacher. Because for better or for worse, one of the things that I do really well is take large, what can be complex ideas and shrink them down into concepts and thoughts and or stories and pass them along, teach them in words that are concise and understandable. I do that pretty well, and I've always focused on whatever information that I learned from my contacts with the Andromeda Council, that I teach it in a clear and straightforward manner as possible. So that's probably the longest dissertation of this story that I've ever told, but that's, this is definitely not an overnight scenario. I was essentially basically awakened in 1993 with those 3 trips back in time. Right. And then I was reawakened physically again in September of 2010. And a whole new set of dialogue came about, first with the commander of the primary Andromeda Council Biosphere, and then Azar, the chief medical officer, Ambassador Tanka, Vice Chairwoman Tanya, diplomat Maka, and some other people as well. So it's not just him, it's a bunch of people that I'm communicating with. Andromeda Council website went live in May of 2011. You and I had our debut interview together in August of 11, when the Andromeda Council took out that lattice network base just due west of Washington, D.C., and you and I talked about 6 other bases that were taken out. Fast forward, here we are today with our buddy Ray K, who's been very patient as I've been telling my story. Right. But it's definitely...
Hang on just a minute more, because I just want a couple of more questions.
Yeah, it's okay. The question's good.
I'm just being the intrepid journalist.
I will, for the sake of being repetitious, I will repeat. This is not an overnight kind of like, oh, somebody just turned him on. This has been happening to me since 1993, and I have a whole host of other experiences that tell me I'm not just some kind of earth human I am, but that there's more to me. There's more to me than just this physical body. There's a lot going on in my life that tells me I have a higher responsibility that I take very seriously. And that higher responsibility is learning and reporting as much as they tell me, and to some degree, as much as the people who write to me and ask me questions. That's where a lot of this information comes from. I have so many people writing to me that a lot of my answers are born out of the questions that are asked of me. Because it's not like I always just go, oh yeah, I'm going to go ask this. A lot of these questions come in from people who've been writing to me for years, and I say, okay, good question or questions. Let me go ask. Go ask, and I come back with answers. So having said all that, I'm going to close my lips and let you ask away.
Okay. I have first an observation and then one more question.
Sure.
And the observation, I think, is an interesting one because it's independent corroboration to what you just said. And that is that people can go to Exopolitics TV. Just go to YouTube and Google Exopolitics TV and see our interviews with Jerry Wills. Jerry Wills is an extraterrestrial who was brought here as a young baby from Tauceti.
Right. I know Jerry.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know Jerry?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great. And Jerry was brought here as a young baby
Okay.
from Tauceti. And it was as a project of the, quote, Council of Worlds, I imagine the Galactic Federation. And you just mentioned that they were based in Tauceti.
They are, yes.
And, yeah, and he's part of the project by which they brought babies from advanced human worlds and brought them here to kind of leaven the fabric.
Huh.
And Jerry Wills is one of those. And his is a fascinating story. And you can just go to Exopolitics TV and just Google in Jerry Wills, and we've got his full story there. So I just mentioned that's independent corroboration about Tauceti and the Council of Worlds, which is the headquarters of the Galactic Federation. Now, the question is this, and it has to do with AI and computers. There's a thing called Ashtar Command, and there's a researcher called Dan Winter, and his research has led him to believe that Ashtar Command is in fact an organic computer. And that is that it's not a genuine Council of Worlds, but rather it's an AI, it's an organic computer that has developed as an AI and become a command or an entity in space. Do you have any knowledge or comment on that?
The only other, I'm going to use this word loosely, council that I'm aware of some details in depth is the Galactic Federation and or Confederation of Light. They keep flip-flopping their name back and forth. I'm not sure what they decide they are on which day, but in any case, because of some of the considerable problems that they've given the Galactic Federation, whose name they've co-opted, I've had to get involved in that situation. I know almost nothing about the Ashtar Command. I've heard about them. I heard at one time that they were a rather independent command, acting as sort of like an independent mercenary air force. They would do deep space project work for whoever wanted it, but that's as much as I'd heard. Now,
do you think would you consider that the Galactic Federation of Light Forces might be an AI and an artificial intelligence?
No. That organization, and first of all, what I'd like to say is this before I make this statement. I am not, and I'll speak clearly, I am not accusing anyone on planet of what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I'm not accusing any humans, but based on what I've learned, the genesis of that organization was born in the Sirius B star system, which is the home of many reptilian and not very good reptilian organizations. And I was informed years ago that the Galactic Federation of Light, at least in its genesis, was birthed out of a reptilian-based. That was its origins. You know, that's where it started.
Yeah.
And I have enough. I don't know. We'll call it anecdotal information, as well as some empirical information from the commander of the primary Andromeda Council Biosphere. He's given me specific information. Now, I can't always say that the time references he gives me are accurate, because what they experience in time as compared to what we experience in time is different. But suffice it to say that there was enough information that moved me to write a white paper called Setting the Record Straight. And I laid down the exact differences between the Galactic Federation and the Galactic Confederation, or Federation of Light. And I'll simply lay this one foundational element down. The Galactic Federation, the day-to-day operations interstellar interspace company of the Andromeda Council / Galactic Council, this Galactic Federation is based in the Tau Ceti star system.
Right.
The Galactic Confederation, or Federation of Light, they claim themselves is based in the Sirius B star system.
I see.
So I don't know how they can claim that both organizations are the same. That's A. B, I remember more times, about 3 years or so ago, you and I would have a conversation, an interview. I would make some very definite statements of fact, and then I would see my own words being used and twisted and released in some other statements by Galactic Federation of Light people on the planet.
Okay.
So
Now,
having said that, I can tell you about what I knew was an AI situation. Do you remember, we're going to reach back into, I think it was July of 2012, and there was a big uproar about, oh, there's going to be some ships and they're going to fly over the Olympic Stadium in London and they are going to show themselves and there's going to be this big ET reveal.
right.
I knew categorically that that was AI generated. And I knew that because, and I spoke with Chris and Sherry Geo of Truth Frequency Radio.
Oh, yeah.
I knew that because the name that was being given by the people reporting, they said that they were from like the Pleiadian High Council or Pleiadian Council. No such organization exists.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It was a fabrication, and the information was a fabrication. And I said it back then. They're like, oh, Tolec, you know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. You know, I get hammered by a lot of people. Well, July 12th or 13th came and went. No ships revealed themselves over the skies in London. Nothing, not even a blip.
Right.
And I knew back then, if there was a really good example of AI, somebody was broadcasting, or something was using computers to broadcast that message about this Pleiadian Council and a big UFO reveal over the Olympics in July of 2012. I knew it was absolutely false. So that was my first experience in terms of knowing that there was some kind of AI infiltration going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So does that help?
Oh, sure. This has been
Okay.
very, very clear. I just wanted to mention one other observation, and that is that it has been observed that there's an alliance between the negative reptilians, say the Dracos, and AI, because both of those want to dominate and take over human planets. So I just wanted to.
I'm aware of at least 20 other planets, two of which have human beings on them. They don't have the diversity of races that we have here on Earth, but there are 18 planets plus 2 is 20, 2 of them that are very Earth-like, that have been infiltrated, manipulated, and been abused by the Draco and Hydra and Orion and Sirius B reptilians for years. And that's the next stopping off point after Earth gets cleaned out. There are all these other planets that the reptilians have messed with in deep space. And their time's coming. It's certainly not going to be very long on this planet they're going to be around. That's.
Okay.
I know Ray will chime in on that one.
Okay. Now,
but you're the host, so I'll let you do this.
yeah. So thank you very much. You've been very, very thorough, and you've really cleared. I mean, you've really documented your lineage and your connection interdimensionally. Let me switch over to Ray.
Yay.
Yay. Now, Ray, could you describe for our audience your 3 generations of interdimensional contact, 3rd generation contactee, starting with your grandfather? I think it was Hungary. What was it, Hungary?
Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
And could you just bring us into the picture there?
Okay. First of all, I just want to say it's an honor to follow a person like Tolec, and as much as I know him as a friend, and same way with you, Alfred. But anyway, pardon me.
I just said thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
No problem.
But it goes both ways.
I know.
We're all here doing important work, and
Exactly. It all started with my late grandfather in Yugoslavia. He was a lumberjack. And my grandmother would give him like 5 sandwiches to have his coffee. And when he'd take a break, he'd sit on the tree stump. And out of these woods came this little 12-inch dwarf, all covered clothes, sat down on a stump with my grandfather. My grandfather would give him a sandwich. And they would talk. My grandfather had 4 sons. And the information he was given my late grandfather was this was important. He said one of your sons, which was my late father, and one of your great grandsons, which is me, would meet many star people for information. We would never know what the craft looked like or the beings from wherever they came from. We were chosen people. It was all planned out. And my late father was implanted at 5 years old. We're Catholic. My late father had an 8th grade education. He didn't believe in God. Star people turned his life around. I came in the picture 1959 at 12 years old. I didn't come in at 22 or 42. I came in at 12. My late father had one hell of an education through what has happened. And as of today, it's all me. But as I go forth on this, my dad had a 4-family flat. I grew up in a town called Dogtown. And every Saturday morning, I would go across the street because back in my day, everything was built pretty solid, our cars, and we had these enormous street lights. And I would go across the street by this alley where the street light was, and I'd have these little pebbles and 2 big boulders to actually break the light. And I used to love to hear the ping off this light. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw this metallic ball coming towards me up the street of Tam Avenue off of Manchester where I live. We didn't have remote control back then. And it was a little bit bigger than a basketball, and it was silent, and it came over me about 30 feet. Well, a little kid, 12 years old, I picked up one of the boulders, and I went to step back because I was going to throw at this object. It would fall and break in half. This is a little 12-year-old thinking this, okay? When I went to step back to throw, I saw these little windows with these little tiny figures. These guys are part of my Fab Four, and I'll get into that. My little 3-inch humanoid buddies from the 5th and 7th dimension. So I dropped the rock. They shine a beam of light on me. I guess I was out there for about 45 minutes. And it was like a little parking lot. And this first house, the object went over the house, went down like in the yard, and shot straight up in the air and disappeared. So I went running in the house, and my dad's sitting in his favorite seat in the kitchen table. My mom's cooking breakfast. And this pad that my dad would write on, I grabbed it and start drawing what I'm seeing. And my dad's seeing this. And he's jumping up and down, yelling all kinds of words, flying up. I didn't know what he was talking about. Where did you see this? And I said, right out the front, across the street. Before I could say any more, he went running out the front door. My mom followed, and I had to go out and get him. It was the only time my mom was ever involved with this. at that instant. So when I brought him back in the house, my dad said, sit down. My mom went back to cooking breakfast. He says, tell me everything you know. And I said, if I tell you everything you know, you're not going to kick my ass, because I was trying to break the street light. So he kind of laughed about that. And, but he knew he wasn't alone no more. He had somebody to consult with. And I didn't realize we were going to go meet E.T., the Star People, that night. So what my dad did, we got in the car. He went grocery shopping first. He thought more of my mom than E.T. So we bought all the groceries, 2 loaves of bread, and we go. We go to this area, secluded, car stalls, the giant flying saucers there. And these 4 to 6, it was 4 to 6 Serpo Grays were coming out of the saucer to get me and my late father. And we get out of the car. I'm kind of scared because I'm 12 years old, but I got my protector hero with me. So we're walking up to this saucer, this door lifts down, and we walk in, go into this room. They took me in one room, took my dad in one room. I'm 12 years old. I'm scared. They're scraping me and taking semen from me, and I'm sure they're doing the same thing for my dad. When I was looking up at the ceiling, I saw this giant blanket coming down, lands on me. My head and my feet, I can move. I can't move nothing else. I'm trying to punch through this sticky yellow blanket, and I'm sure my dad's going through the same thing. So after they're done with us, with these tests, they put us in this room together with all these colored chairs. We had black and white TV back, in the 50s and 60s. We didn't have color TV. And here comes this color TV floating in midair in front of me and my dad. It shows Hitler, it shows the wars we had, and it shows our beautiful planet totally on fire. I'm only 12 years old. My dad's asking the Star People, did we have war? Did the sun fall? They're not saying nothing. This is an education for us to figure out what these 3 pictures mean that they're showing us. And we're in this craft, this saucer, and I saw these like fiber optic cable, wire, whatever, and underneath was these real vines. And there's 7 Serpo Grays in this room with us. And they had these handprints, Alfred. They were all different directions for the handprints, like one to lift the saucer up, one to fly it, whatever. And we're listening to this one Serpo Gray talking to us. And I noticed the Serpo Gray picked up this vine that was real close to him. He stuck it in the side of his hand. And I nudged my dad. And I said, Dad, he's feeding himself. My dad saw that. It'd be little things we would pick up. So after they're done with us, we're walking outside the saucer craft on the ground. And immediately, we have 4 Serpo Grays behind us. I bent over, my dad bent over, and our noses are bleeding super bad. It's coming out of right nostril. It's not even hitting the ground. It's like a chain necklace. It's going back into the other nostril. And we're hitting ourselves in the chest because I'm looking at my dad. I thought we were going to die right there. So the noses stop bleeding, and they're walking us to the car. We get in, they take off. Blink of an eye, they're gone. When I turned around to look in the back seat, I saw everything was there but the bread. And that's when I grabbed my dad by the elbow and I said, Daddy, everything's there but the bread. So our car starts, we go back to the 4-family flat. We always went into the yard. It was 210 by 60. It was a humongous yard. I used to cut it with a push mower. We didn't have powered lawnmowers back then. And I would look at the giant, my father, and say, the next time we go meet the Star People, we bring bread, because a light beamed up in my head about them taking a few loaves. And my dad laughed. The second time he went to see the star people, he took 5 loaves of bread. The third time we went to see him, he took 7. That was the magic number. My dad never laughed no more. It was a peace offering as we got educated. We're contactees. We didn't have any missing time. We always knew what was said and through our meetings. But I always gave my late father the recognition of the bread. I, to this day, carry on the tradition. I take 7 loaves of bread. The only ones that ever changed the menu on me were the Nordiques, because they love our donuts. And
That's great.
but and what I would do now that it's all me, when the car stops, when your watch stops, and this is in a wee hour in the morning when I'm having these meetings, when I'm going to see them. So let's say it's 1:20 in the morning, and I go in a craft into this room where I have I call my Fab Four. That's the Serpo Grays from the Fab Serpo. George, my elephant people from the 13th and 14th dimension. He's a warrior. These people are real friendly. And my Nordique friends from another dimension, and my very first encounter in 1959, which I told at the beginning, my little 3-inch humanoid buddies from the 5th and 7th dimension. And we would sit in this room, and they would show me future, past, present, future live videos, things that happened in the past and things that are going to happen now. When the meeting was over, and let's say when they left, my car would start, I would immediately go to a Quick Trip or a bank, somewhere where they had a clock. And let's say the clock said 3 o'clock. So it told me how long that meeting was on that raft. And I would write that down, the date, and everything that was said. Because in the meeting, I would ask important questions. A lot of times they would not answer. Or they would say, my name's Ray Raymond. They gave me the ET name, Raymond. And they would say, you are not ready for this, Raymond. Or they would answer a certain major question. And this was the typical, every 2 months, they would come on my TV, my TV's off. They would be the head of the Elephant Man and Nordique with this beautiful mystic green color background. And they would give me coordinates like line 40S. Well, that meant Highway 40 south. I would get in my car, travel south on Highway 40, and the code was when I saw the craft blink its light twice, the next exit was mine. And that's how we would meet. I have been all over St. Louis, Illinois, wherever I had to go to. These guys always picked the greatest secluded area every time. It was never the same place. I met a total of 32 star people. I just recently met the number 33, the giant bird people. They're 9 to 12 feet tall. They talk telepathic. And I had a lot of my friends on Facebook asking me if these blue avian blue birds were the bird people I've seen, and I said no. But this has been my life for over 55 years. When my late father was in the process of dying, I told my dad that I would find out the truth to who, what, where, and when. And I talked to my late grandfather and my father to this day of things that we were right at times we said things. There was a time when my dad was alive. We never knew what the craft looked like. It was an egg-shaped, beautiful craft lit up at night. This beautiful orange. It was a giant egg-shaped craft, 3 to 4 football fields long, and it lands. And this door comes down. We walk into this room. It's kind of lit up. You know, I'm 12 years old. And we're circled by 6 giant, 8 to 10 feet tall, giant cyclops people. That's what they are, cyclops. Like cyclops people. And I'm crying and screaming. And this leader by the name of Zuda picks me up with one hand. And I'm crying, screaming, kicking my legs like this. When he took me up to this giant one eye, I felt the warmth and the love that fast. And I just stopped. He put me down. I walked over to my dad. And then we heard telepathically, "We are your friends. We're not here to harm you. We're here for information." And what a lot of the 28 good star people were saying was similar. We need to turn everything around. We're destroying the planet. They knew we weren't the complete fault of doing this. We were going by the rules of the superior people in charge of this planet, doing what they were doing, and we were doing part of it. You know, and so we would come back, and we had to come back for information to tell these people. And I was talking to my dad because we would laugh as I got old enough. We're nobody, Dad. Why are these star people picking us? You know, we're not the president of the United States. And it's like we had to go to someone like that, which we knew they would never let us see him, to tell him the information of what we need to do. And now, as I got older and my dad's no longer with me, I kind of knew what my mission was. I always wanted my own place, which I got for a safe zone, per se, that would come to my meeting and would have no fear. Because if we went out of that zone, people would think we're nuts or we would get in trouble. And I had a safe haven for these people. I had a lot of great speakers speak at my meeting room. And then I knew, as I finally came to a point with the Elephant Man, George, and the Nardik, who always took charge, I asked them face to face, "Are you guys done with me?" And they said, "No, Raymond, you are the one." So this told me that these people were going to be in my life for the rest of my life. And this is what my life's been. It's been over 55 years. I gave them the name the Fab Four. They're not the Beatles. I don't know why I gave them that name. They like the name. And they're the most friendliest people you'd ever, well, all 28 were. The other 4 people that I met, which I will say, were the reptilians, praying mantis, the Orion Grays with no big black eyes, and the guys in a silver suit that had a light that would blink when they spoke telepathic. These were the 4 bad ones. But in this whole episode of all 32, they all participated. And even though the 4 bad ones were there for not any good information, because they didn't care if we made it or not, okay? And we never wanted to see them people ever again. I experienced what they look like. I've met some hideous people, even in the good ones. But these people are really friendly. And the good outweighs the bad out there, just like the good outweighs the bad down here. It's been the greatest education of my life. And what these people are doing to come here to help us go smoothly from a 30 Corbin to a crystalline 4D density, 5D density being. It's our time in this 21st century now to enjoy what we were supposed to enjoy, or whoever it was at that time on planet Earth, the way it's supposed to be. Everyone is equal. You would want for nothing. There would be no disease. There would be no wars. It would be the greatest time of our life, and it's coming. And these people have never lied to me, Alfred. You know, it's just been an amazing life. It's still going on. If I wanted anybody on this planet to meet the star people, it would be my little 3-inch guys. It's like blowing up a helium balloon. They would always have you in stitches. They're all over me. They're all over my hat, my shoulder, my palm of my hand. They're just the neatest things in the world. They have the power to shrink you to their size, and they do make some of the crop circle. Takes them about 7 to 10 seconds. I really wanted to let them shrink me, and it was like seeing seven Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it was like being in a cartoon with these guys.
Right.
But I was afraid if I came back 3 inches, I have a cat by the name of Jerry Lee. He probably chased me in my apartment trying to eat me to kill me, and that's what kind of blew that. So I would have loved to venture that. And they live in the trees underneath the ground on their planet. A lot of these beings live underneath the ground. They don't live in the sun like we do. But what they told me about us turning into mutants, they're really on target there. We're in the sun a lot. Cells that die, that give us old age, top scientists to this day are trying to reverse that, so that would be our immortality, like an immortality of a Nardik is 1,800 years, an immortality of a Circle Gray is 350 years. We're living longer now, but as we progress into the fourth, we're going to live even longer. And I got age, prostate cancer, compliments the United States government. But to know that we're going to go into fourth dimension, and I'm a young 67, because us men are going to look like we're 30 and 35 and have no disease. I can't wait for this. And what I'm doing now is for two late people that ain't here with me no more, and the people on this planet. And I've met great people as I've went forward. Tolec, you, Alfred, Laura Eisner, Peter Slattery, the list goes on. And we're contactees, Alfred. We're doing our job. We're a voice for the star people. That's what we do. As we get close to the time, it's going to make it easier for the star people and for the people on this planet. It's going to take a lot of fear, and there's a lot of people ready to go. A lot of people are tired of bullshit that's going on. A lot of people are listening to the people that are telling the truth, because Tolec knows there's a lot of bullshit out there that are scaring people. Because for one, there's a lot of people on this planet that don't know what the hell's going on, and we're going to try and awaken these people the best we can. I would love for everybody on this planet to go. It's not a perfect world out there. It's not a perfect world down here, Alfred. You're going to have people that don't care. You can do everything in your power to try and transfer these people in the right direction. The people that are ready, the people that have no idea what's going on, they're going to have a chance. But when this frequency moves to a certain point, the people that don't give a shit, I guarantee you this, they will say, what was that phone number? What was his name that we call in? It's too late. Okay? We're human people. We do the human thing. I got a gal named Chris in Panama. They want it now. And I understand that. It just doesn't work that way, Alfred. And as we go through this process, it's going to take time. And George, my elephant man, and all the ETs that he's brung into this, they're ready. They're programmed. And as we move forward, people will see a lot more UFOs in the night like never before, just to ease the fear a little bit. And who the first one will be to make contact, I have no idea. But when that time comes, they're not going to be here for a short time. It's going to be a process. We're going to be working side by side with these people, learning new technologies and getting answers that were taken away from us. Finding out who our relationship really is, what's really going on, the who, what, why, and when, that I'm going to find out from my late father, that I've made a quest for in this whole thing. I've had the greatest education, just like Tolec. You don't go to school for this. I came in this for 12 years old. And for a 12-year-old kid, because I had my little kid life, you know, but I had this greatest education that really made me what I am, besides what my late parents made me. I had great morals to be a fighter and a warrior, and that's what I do. And I will do this and find out the answers to this until the day I die. That's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There was one question that I have, and it's really for both Ray and for Tolec, and then we can move on to the substance of our panel, which is really the perspective going from 2015 to 2025 as your various interdimensional sources inform. And the question is this, and the context, I think, is that, Ray, you were saying that George, the elephant person,
Yeah.
and if we look at Ganesh is an elephant extraterrestrial person in the Indian culture. So there's, you know, we have that kind of background there.
Right.
And George operates in the 9th to 13th.
13th and 14th dimension.
Sorry?
13th and 14th dimension.
Okay, 13th and 14th. And Tolec, there was some question, I know, reading that I didn't know if the Andromeda Council was in 4 and 5D or in a different area.
Thanks for pointing this out. It varies. I'll start from the lowest common denominator and work my way up. If you consider the 300 some odd planets that are part of the Galactic Federation, which has its own 10th senior member seat on the council, there are 3D humans that are part of the Galactic Federation. Traditionally, the greater portion of the membership of the Andromeda Council, as it's known here on Earth, Galactic Council as it's known out in space, has been 4D through 9D. Moreover, I can tell you that my own people from the planet Dakota and the planet itself, when I first started doing this work, they were at the upper 4D level, vibratory level. They're today, as we would measure time, they are at like the third level of the fifth these days. So even they've evolved vibrationally. The people who are the most senior member of the Andromeda Council, the people from Arcturus, they are 9D beings. So that I'm aware of, at least 3D through 9D. There's quite a spread. And this spread is accounted for, and there are accommodations on the various Andromeda Council biospheres for people, for beings to thrive at their own dimensional level. I guess they have, for lack of better words, different ways of managing the environment on different floors so that visiting diplomats, ambassadors, et cetera, who are going to the council to do work, can live in their own accommodations at their own vibrational frequency and
Right.
do what they need to do. So that's the short answer to that one.
Right. Now,
The other thing,
okay, go ahead.
Alfred, is, and Tolec knows there's no cut down to his guys either, because my people are aware of Tolec's people, drama council, vice
Yeah,
versa.
which is
Me and him-
the actual question that I'm going to get to. But go ahead.
Even though my guys are a higher being, dimension, it's in reality, we're all in this together, okay? And his Andromeda Council is just as important as all 33 that I've met. Okay, I can speak for my 33. He can speak for his. Is it 12 planets in Andromeda Council?
Of the senior members of the council, 12.
Okay.
Junior members, there are like, I don't know, somewhere between 150 to 300.
Okay. Because we would ask our people, Tolec would go back to his, and we'd have confirmation, and one of us would say, "What you're saying, they're right. You're right on the money." We get confirmation, whatever the situation or question was, and it's just.
Yeah, that's been kind of fun, because I would have some conversation with my guys. Ray, you would have conversation with your guys.
Right.
We would come back and have another conversation 4 or 5 days later. Interestingly enough, we're confirming almost the same information. And that's been a kick.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that was my underlying question that I wanted to ask you.
Sorry.
To what extent
Oops.
do your different forces, okay,
Yeah.
coordinate with each other and are aware of each other? Because it seems like you're very large forces,
Right.
and you're carrying out agendas, very specific agendas on Earth, from what I know of them.
Mm.
And so, is this under a unified command, or is it a separate command, or could you explain that?
Yeah, Tolec, I'll let you handle that, and I'll just.
Okay.
I'll put that one on you.
I will tell you what I know and don't know. I'm not aware of any coordination between the people of the Andromeda Council, aka Galactic Council. I'm not aware of any coordination between my people and our various races and the people that Raymond's talking about.
Right.
What I can tell you is that, and I know this is going to be an anecdotal story, but it's still an experience I had. I was physically up on the primary Andromeda Council biosphere being given a tour. This is back in late 2011. And I will euphemistically say that both Vice Chairwoman Tanya and Chief Medical Officer Azar were having fun with me. They were giving me a tour and introducing me to many different beings. And Ray will know this story as soon as I get here.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, here we go. So apparently they had introduced me to a variety of humanoids of different sizes and shapes and colors, and I was doing pretty good. Races, and I don't remember the names, but races 1 through 10. We got to race number 11, and I remember them walking me down these various hallways inside the biosphere so I could go to at least observe and or meet these people. And they said, okay, now we're going to go see this 11th person. And they introduced me to this person. I kind of looked through this view screen. And for those of you people who are familiar with the fictional universe of Star Wars, there was a character in Star Wars called Jabba the Hutt. And he's like this monstrous, grotesque worm guy. And so character number 11, Azar and Vice Chairwoman Tanya introduced me to person number 11. And there in front of this protective glass kind of screen is about a 1/3 version of Jabba the Hutt. And I freaked. I absolutely freaked out. I'm like, slimy worm guy, get me out of here now.
Right.
And they laughed. They thought it was, they knew that I was going to have this kind of reaction. And they're like, we got you. I'm like, get me out of here. I am not comfortable with this guy. And he was sitting there laughing, just being himself, same kind of deal. But he was literally about a third of the size of Jabba the Hutt, but same kind of character. So and Raymond's testimony of him meeting 32 different races of people is, 3 times what I've met. If we take into account labor counselor Simon Parks and all the people that he's met, the reptilians, what do they call them? The praying mantis people. There's, for better or for worse, there is out in space a plethora of people, both organic as well as higher dimensional.
Yeah.
And I know that's a more extended answer, but I'm not aware of any coordination between the council and Raymond's people. But are there a lot of people out there? Oh, yeah, there certainly are.
Right. So that 2 things. Number one, George Lucas may have had input from some secret space program or for some contactees.
I would be surprised. I would be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, I think that's fair because a lot of these, what people saw, are in my case, in Tolec's case, even though they made them fiction, they're real. We got confirmation just what Tolec said on Slimy Guy. That's what he called the worm guy.
Yeah,
He met my worm people. That's one of the 32.
Yeah.
And they are slimy when you touch them. But I had to laugh when Tolec said it. And I've heard it before, so it's pretty
cool. Yeah, because I told Raymond the story, and Raymond said, "Oh yeah, I know about them. We've met them." I went, "You have?" He's like, "Yeah."
Now, the other thing that occurs to me, and this is my final observation, is that if the Andromeda Council really goes from 3D to 9D formally,
right?
George and co. are 13 and 14D. These are different dimensional frequency ranges,
right?
And the differences are not just differences in degree. I mean, the difference between the 9th dimension and the 13th dimension as far as realities could be enormous, such that there's no coordination because their realities are not compatible. And I just wanted to offer up that possibility, because the way that Ray is contacted and the way that you have contact Tolec are entirely different, and the conceptual scheme is entirely different.
We got to remember this too. Out of the 33, I mean, we got 4th, 5th, 8th, 9th, 13th, 14th. A lot of people, a lot of the star people would only give their dimension, their galaxy.
Yeah.
And would not give. The only one that gave their planet were the Seahorse people, because we got tiny ones in our ocean.
Right.
And their planet was dying, and they were supposed to get back to me. And I've always wondered if they made it or whatever. But they were from the 23rd planet.
Right.
And the only way to put this is there is so many that we don't know, just like what George has done now, to set everything up from between trillions and billions of ETs that have stepped forward to participate in this position that needs to be set for the bad ETs, the people running the show down here that you know who they are. Some of them are reptilians and they look human. And the process that's going to take for Mother Earth, everything is set. And then you got Tolec's Andromeda Council, what they're doing. So it's a massive, unbelievable operation that is happening as we speak.
Right, right.
Raymond, I take it what you're saying is, if I can somewhat interpret your words, you're saying that the people of planet Earth are getting a lot of help with this, not only ultimate transformation, but the transition process?
Exactly. Oh, yeah, that's what this is about. Because Mother Earth, as old as she is going to be the biggest part of the ascension on this planet, because, and you know yourself, there will be no third dimensional being that can exist under the frequency when it hits the point.
Right.
But then people will be taken care of, and Tolec will vouch for this, with other ETs going through the same thing, Alfred. We're not the only ones going through this. On planet Earth we are, but there's other planets out there going through the exact same thing.
Process. So, right, exactly. So let's kind of have a formal transition then between kind of this part one of the panel, and now we're moving to part two, and it's a good time. I mean, I think that we'll be giving equal time to both parts, and in part two, we're going to be looking at the transformational and the transition and transformational process of the planet, say from 2015 to 2025. That's just an arbitrary 10-year period. If you want to take, different time periods in that, break it up to 2017 and then forward, that's fine. And I'd like to start, if I could, with Tolec. And people can go to your website, which is AndromedaCouncil.com, because there on the website you have a very long article entitled Time of Transition for Planet Earth, and you start out with 2011, 2012 to 2016, and the moment of transformation, 2017, a possible transformation date. And so I'll be asking you just open-ended questions, and you can really bring the listeners, our viewers, into that. But I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
And this is the question that came up in our interviews, and it's a question that I encountered online a great deal when I post your information or make reference to you, because I don't know how to answer it completely.
I know what's coming. Go ahead and ask.
Yeah, but I'll just.
It's all right. It's okay.
And I think that, and I'm going to let you state the whole case because I don't have it in my mind. And that is that there was a statement that as to January 1st, and I forget the year.
Early January 2012. Sorry, misstated. Early January 2014 was the projected date that this world was supposed to go 4D, the transformation of this world from 3D to 4D. Right.
That it would be January 1st, 2014, and that it would be 4D. And there were very specific predictions made about we would all look a certain age, we would have a certain height, and, certain certain things. And of course, that did not occur. And in my interviews with you, and I know in articles, the approach that I took was, well, with interdimensional information, very often the people giving interdimensional information, there's kind of an adjustment between, say, information that's coming from 9D down into 3D, and it gets adjusted.
It's almost like a person. I'm going to use an analogy, which may or may not be accurate, but it'll help some people understand the breadth of what we're dealing with. A person who is a native speaker of Russian, example, speaking to someone who has learned Russian, not a native speaker, but they've learned it, Or maybe they're a translator that's learned it.
Yeah.
There are going to be not only nuances in the inflection that the natural Russian speaker has, but where he or she is from could change the possible meanings of some things that are said. And I don't even have to use Russian. I can use French or Spanish.
Sure.
Think of Spanish in Panama as compared to Spanish in Argentina as compared to Spanish in Mexico. There are all sorts of axioms and idioms
Sure.
that people don't even understand each other. They're speaking the same language.
That's right.
That wasn't the case here. I'd like to say it was, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
go ahead.
Just to give us the full context,
Sure.
because I'm starting here. I'm looking at a time of transition for planet Earth. Could you take us and give us the whole story, starting with 2011, and then just give us that kind of when that prediction for 2014 happened, and then what happened there, and then how you see it, and then how you see the general transition going forward, say through 2017 through and beyond, and just take as much time and as much nuance as you need.
Okay. All right. I have experienced so much in my life since our first interviews in August and September, subsequent October 2011, all of 2012. I mean, all of us have experienced a lot. I have detailed with incredible detail all of the undersea reptilian bases that were taken out, exactly when they were going to be taken out, within days. I think my accuracy was right on 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
And and all of the other work that I've done since then. There's such a body of work that I'm not able to recall every single thing I said and exactly when I said it. So with that as the disclaimer, I'll answer your question.
Yeah, and by the way,
yes,
put the full array of Exopolitics TV interviews and articles with you as part of the article that will accompany this panel, so that people can go back historically and see all the interviews and all of the corroboration. Yes,
thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I know I just touched on it, but I'll touch on it again in greater detail. You and I had at least 3 or 4 interviews regarding specific undersea reptilian base locations that were going to be taken out. And I gave you locations and dates ahead of time. And I'm pretty sure that in 3 out of 4 cases, I was, not me, because I'm just reporting. The information I was given was dead nuts right on in every single case, at least 3 out of 4 times. If you're playing baseball, that's a pretty good average. And I think that with the 4th one, they didn't complete the destruction of the base because the battle was pretty fierce. They completed it about 3 or 4 days later than the original date they'd given. Again, there's been just a lot of information that I've reported on, and rather than go into detail about all of those different experiences that I've told and reported about, I'll say that I myself did not question the projected date of January 2014. And quite frankly, they never said the 1st. They said early, the end of the 1st week maybe, but certainly they said January 2014, it's going to happen. And I can only tell you what they told me. What they told me was they did not realize the pace at which and the high numbers of people that were waking up. And I know I've given this explanation before, but the advent, and Alfred, even think of the volume of information on the internet today in 2015, even as compared to late 2011. It's probably doubled or tripled in terms of who is producing programs like this, asking questions like this. The number of listeners has jumped by the thousands. And fortunately, we're not the only ones. We're not the only voices. There are other people out there that are doing this work as well, which is good.
Right.
So to get back to get me back on center, my contacts with the Andromeda Council essentially said, when I asked them, what didn't happen and why didn't it happen? They said, keep in mind, we've always told you that the triggering events of the transformation of your world from 3D to mid-level 4D would be cosmically generated. They are things that would happen in space that would trigger the ultimate higher dimensional transformation of your world. I said, okay. They said, now, in addition to that, we did not understand, nor did we correctly estimate the fact that the high level of communication that is happening on your world because of this technology you have called the internet, that it has been triggering so many people to wake up, to begin a conscious path of awakening, a conscious path of asking questions, of not taking things for granted anymore. That they simply said, these are not the right words, but they simply said, it is not time yet. There are other evolutionary events. There are other matters that will need to be allowed to happen on your world before the ultimate transformation of your world can take place. Now, the words, it's not the right time, those are not the right words, but I don't have higher dimensional words to give us to accurately describe why it wasn't, other than the fact that the cosmic events that were supposed to be triggering back then, things change. Things change out in space.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you both an example. There was a gentleman who was talking this year in May the 27th or 28th. Interestingly enough, it was just a few days before the movie San Andreas was supposed to come out. Mm-hmm. San Andreas, you know, the movie about the big one, the big earthquake when California starts to split and, you know, the plates have fractured. San Francisco is going down into the ocean.
Right.
There was a gentleman, I think, in the Netherlands who was saying, look, and he had this software saying, look at the alignment of these planets. If all of these planets line up this way with our little ball called Earth, facing the direction of the alignment, we're likely looking at a pretty nasty earthquake in California on, I think, May 29th. Well, interestingly enough, there was no major earthquake that happened in California on May 29th. Now, I may be off by a day or two, but the point is, the very next day, Japan had a 7.8 earthquake. Alignments of the planets happened. When you look at the size of the globe, perspective-wise, California is not that far from Japan. It's not that far from the Asia coast. Right. So the planet was turned just enough. Where did the energies of these planetary alignment cause problems? Japan. Not Canada.
May I say one thing?
Sure.
And Alfred, and this is to your people. This is to your people that are listening to us. When it came up January, what Tolec's talking about, first or in 2014, we're contactees. We get information from our higher-ups. He gets it from the Andromeda Council. I get it from my Fab Four. He's doing his job just like me. But when us humans hear a date and a year, that's what they latch on to. And I understand that because we do the human way, the human thinking. We want it now. Just like my girl in Panama, Chris, okay? He did his job. And the people look down on him for that. And that's not fair because You know, he was told by his people. He didn't predict it himself as a person. Okay, we we we,
Well,
we do our job.
and it's okay. I'm all right with being held accountable.
I understand.
No, this is not you personally, because this is talking about the information that you're given. Now, if I could ask you, since we're on this subject,
Sure.
part of the theory that we've been looking at, and people can go to positivefuture.info, and this is more in the area of time science. In fact, you and I had that discussion.
Well, yes,
about,
yes.
Timelines. Yeah, timelines, and they're like lanes in a multi-lane highway.
That's right.
So that part of the theory, and I've got a 27-page paper up there, is that, and now the terms are artificial timeline and organic timeline, is that prior to 2112, to December 21st, 2012,
right,
we were on an artificial timeline, which goes back 26,000 years, and we won't get into that. It's kind of
right. And reptilian interference in other races. And
yeah, exactly. And then at December 21st, 2012, the timeline shifted back to the organic timeline, and so a lot of the things that were supposed to happen, Planet X and all this kind of stuff, is not happening because they aren't on the organic timeline. So I'm just wondering if that January 1st, 2014 was on the artificial timeline, it's not on the organic, and that's why it didn't happen.
It's possible.
It's a plausible explanation. What I've done and what I'll always do is share the information that I learn from my Andromeda Council contact people at the time I learn it. And unless I go back and say, hey, I'm intuitively being driven to ask you guys a question, or somebody else is asking me a number of questions that challenges your statement. Right. Unless I go back, I'm not going to get new information. The only time I get new information is when I go back.
Yeah.
And again, I'm happy to be held accountable for the statements that I made. I understand that the higher dimensional transformation of this world did not happen in January 2014.
Right.
Again, to be as succinct as I can about this, they simply said to me, we didn't realize how many of your people were waking up at such a fast pace. Okay. It would not have been the right thing to do to allow the triggering of this event until, and this is where some of your language, Alfred, comes in.
Okay.
And I'm paraphrasing. Until, and you too, Ray, until humanity could reach its nexus point, its peak of higher density, higher dimensional awareness.
Exactly.
Only at that moment, in combination with certain cosmic events, only when that peak is reached, that's when the trigger events will begin. The organic, cosmically based trigger events will happen to trigger the beginning of a transformational dimensional shift. And as I understand it, because here I am as a somewhat higher dimensional being animating a 3D organic body, there are beings, much like Raymond talks about, and even higher up, that you could call sub-gods or godlets, small g, small o, small d, that are essentially little creator. These are the wrong words, but little creator gods. And
Right.
these are the guys that are aware of all the dynamics that are happening, and they're watching all the things that are going on, and they're the ones that are allowing certain gears to turn at a certain pace, which will allow certain things to trigger. They're orchestrating all of this. Right. Certainly not us, and not the guys in 5D or 9D, but the guys way up the food chain, way up the decision chain.
Yeah.
I may not be giving credence to the description of these higher density beings, but there is certainly, I've come to learn that there's certainly a much higher source that is orchestrating all of this and allowing for all of this to happen. And to put a summary point on this, our guys, my guys with council, said certain things have to come together in a certain way at the right moment. And that's when things will start to trigger and shift. It's not when, it's not time-based. It's all of these other elements that must come together.
Yeah.
And kind of like, how do you make the perfect pie or the perfect pizza? All the right ingredients at all the right temperature. And now I'm going to use a earth human term. The guy making the pizza, he knows exactly when to pull it out of the oven. We don't, but he's been making pizza all his life. You know, it's a metaphor, but I don't know if that helps your listeners, but
yeah. I think that we're beginning to get a more,
And Alfred,
good picture. Yeah, Ray.
understand this, and I know Tolec does. My guys and his guys, they go to future timelines. They look back at our timeline.
True.
If everything's going in the right, Tolec, and if everything's going in the right direction at that right moment, that's what this is about.
Right. They look at it at that moment.
Right.
And only at that moment.
Yeah. And if there's something off, it changes.
Yep.
Okay. And Tolec said it many times, and my people are right there with him. They don't go by dates. It's an event. Okay. Just like, and I know you're probably going to bring this up, but I'll just use the 2 years, what I've talked about in my meetings and on radio shows. 2015 is a pace-setting, amazing year for us on planet Earth. 2017 is a major year. Now, even though I gave you 2 years, Alfred, I'm not predicting anything here, okay? This is the information that my people give me. Me and Tolec have talked about the year 2017, okay? That's confirmation for me and him and his people. But it's the way that they're saying it compared to what happened January 2014. The human people on this planet, we're human, okay? But in a sense, we're not. Well, I'm not going to get into that.
Right.
The main thing I'm trying to say here is we're a voice for ET. We're doing our job. Any information Tolec gets from his people and I get from my people, good or bad, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to lay it on line.
Okay.
And at that time, that's what came in for him. He was doing his job.
Yeah, it's okay.
Now we're not assigning blame.
Right.
No.
Just trying to understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now.
And I'm okay with the question. Not a problem at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, there is no blame. It's just to understand, and you've begun to understand. I personally think that there might be something to the shift from an artificial to the organic timeline, to use those terms.
Oh, sure.
If you do consult with your people, I would appreciate if you would, and
I'll ask.
If they do give feedback, that would be very valuable.
Well, Alfred, if I may, there are a couple of relevant points I'd like to share with you. As an example, this gentleman who's my primary contact, the guy who's the big dog, the overall commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere, that means he's also responsible for the other 11. When I asked him about this topic, and that led to other conversation as well about the nature of where we are at in our development today. And I don't know if I ever shared this with you or not, but I'll go here. I said, do you mean to tell me that because we were interfered with by reptilians, Anunnaki, and other ETs, but specifically recently, like going back to Roswell and all of the re-engineering of all the technology that we as an advanced civilization, quote unquote, have had since, I don't know what, 1947, 1950?
Right.
We have access to technology that we have today, and people are using smartphones they have today because of all of this back engineering. Without access to this technology, my primary contact said, if we had been left on our own to evolve organically, we should be technologically at about 1975 today.
Huh.
75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015. 40 years. We've eclipsed our natural organic time path of 40 years because of technology that we've either stolen, retrieved, re-engineered, back-engineered. He said we should basically be at where we were in 1975 today. That's one statement. Here's one that I think people are going to go, wow, when they hear it. Here's another wow story. Apparently, I've always been a student of time and trying to understand it. And I finally asked a question which gave me a better earth human sense so that I could explain it better. The question I asked was, again, I asked this to actually Ambassador Tonka and the gentleman who's the commander of the biosphere. I said, help me understand from a comparison perspective. And I know we're going to be using Earth terms here, and I know that you guys don't experience time the way that we do, but bear with me and give me Earth terminology when I ask these questions. I said, okay. I said, all right. I'm going to accept that I've been coming to this planet for a number of years. We'll call it my Tolec spiritual essence, originally birthed on planet Dakota thousands of years ago. All right, if we accept that as truth, tell me how many lifetimes have I had on this world? He said, about 75,000. I went, what? No, I've got a handle on about 10 or 12 of them. I mean, I have a really good handle on about 10 or 12 lifetimes. And interestingly enough, from about the 11 or 1200s, most of them have been Native American. Hopi, Lakota, Nakota, Dakota. Including one time I was actually a mixed race Buffalo cavalry soldier. If you looked at me, I'd look African American, but apparently I had like 3 or 4 different bloodlines in me.
Oh.
So that's another story altogether. In any case, to get back on track. So I said, 75,000 lifetimes? He's like, yep. I said, okay. So that I can have a better handle on the difference between how you guys experience time and how we experience time, tell me how long it would feel to you in Earth terms that I've been gone away from you guys on the biosphere, away from you, away from Ambassador Tonka, Azar, Vice Chairman Tanya, and everybody else that I work with. He went, about a year and a half. I went, what?
And that's 75,000 lifetimes?
Yes. So that means if we bump it up a number, we go, if 75,000 equals a year and a half, that means 100,000 equals 2 years, which would mean 50,000 equals 1 year. I'm just doing simple increments of 25,000. So if we come scooting back and forth between a 4D or 5D existence from the primary Andromeda Council biosphere or an intermediary transit station where, and this is the whole in-between lives conversation comes in. For them, I've come down here, parenthetically, 50,000 lifetimes, 50,000 lifetimes. They feel like I've been gone 1 year, roughly.
Right.
That is almost incomprehensible for the human mind to try to wrap our mind around how it can only feel like, and again, I'm using Earth human terms so we can kind of wrap our minds around the differences. 1 year for them, 50,000 lifetimes for us.
And
That's incredible. Now, why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant because if somebody says, oh yeah, this is going to happen in March of 2017. Now I'm going, really? Really? Well, the difference between, in this case, 2017 and maybe January of 2014, the difference from their perspective is a finger snap like that.
right.
Because if I've come down here for 50,000 lifetimes or 75,000 lifetimes, as the beginning of my story told, and they feel like I'm gone a year and a half, how do you pinpoint something's going to happen exactly on a certain date? You don't.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
well, based on this monitor screen, based on this timeline, we're going to give you this number. We're going to give you this date that you're looking for as a human. I'm like, oh.
Right.
Okay. So I know they're anecdotal stories, but I hope that it provides the listeners with a new sense of, wow, an ability to get a handle on the vast differences of a higher dimensional experience of time and our experience of time. These little short organic lives.
I think that that's very, very valuable
Yeah.
input. And your analogy to say, well, without the input of either ET or back engineered or other technologies, we would be at 1975, about 40 years behind. And there's some estimates that the breakaway, what they call the breakaway civilization,
Yes.
such as it exists, I've heard estimates that they're up to 10,000 years ahead of us in terms of the technology that they're using. Now, that's a loose term, but
Right.
I mean, they are technologically, they're just off the charts as far as we're concerned. We're back in some Stone Age, and they are like in, in another world.
Way other leagues ahead of us.
The other thing,
Now, so let me bring this back, because I kind of want to keep the nose to the grindstone just a bit, and that is, let's look back at, say, this 2015 to 2025 period, loose period. 10.
Okay.
That's what they call kind of a short to medium term. Maybe your kind of short-term future. But it seems like a crucial one, doesn't it? It seems like something important's going to happen in this short-term, because 2 years ago, I was hearing from Mary Rodwell's ETs, and these are the kids that go up at night into the ships, and then they come down during the day, and they tell you what they found out. And they say, yeah, in 2017, there's going to be a big shift in consciousness.
Right.
So you're hearing it from all sorts of independent, and then the more that you hear it, we know that the matrix forces are going to come out and try to do some kind of stuff to either slow it down or get it off track. So there's going to be something going on there. So what is going to happen then? Like, what is going to happen over the next 10 years that's different from right now? What is going to happen? First Tolec, and then we'll go to Ray.
Mr. Wizard, do you have a ball? A crystal ball?
I've got this guy.
Oh, that's a beauty. That's a beauty. Okay. What I have learned from my people is that we are bless you, sir. We are supposed to be entering in early autumn of 2015 a very dynamic change cosmically out in space, and therefore affecting this planet Earth. And that those cosmic events will trigger what I call earth change events on the planet, such as more earthquakes happening at a greater frequency, a greater pace, volcanoes popping off like we've never experienced in our lifetime, rising oceans, et cetera, prototypical earth change events. And that those earth change events will continue to increase as we move into 2016, into 2017. I don't know exactly how it will happen. I don't know exactly what the events will be. I've been shown a map of what the North American continent will look like in the future. Exactly how it's going to play out, I don't know. We won't know until we experience it. But my people have said this is going to be a time of great cosmic change and physical change on the planet, and we'll see. I'm not predicting. I'm not a prophet. I'm just telling everybody else what my Andromeda Council guys have told me.
And Alfred, my guys are on the same page as Tolec's, because exactly what he said, that actually came in the meeting this morning with the Elephant Man and RDX, my Fab 4, that we are going to experience a lot of earthquakes, tremendous earthquakes like never before, a shift on this planet like never before, because what Mother Earth is going to go through, she's going to produce, because you got to remember, this planet's really old. She has to enter the ascension, because this is the planet that we live on, me and Tolec and everybody else. In order to ascend, everything in its place has to happen at a certain time, other than
careful.
The events. No, I'm not predicting here. The way of life and what's going to happen in outer space that's going to coincide with that, with my star people, Tolec, the list goes on, because there's so many star people involved in this situation of the ascension. Here's the other thing that's in the picture, and we've been talking about this. The bad people down here, okay, that's going to change. Anything bad down here will be no more. Tolec might agree with me on that. Other than the reptilians, Hydro Draco, that cannot leave, want to go back to their planet. The way I look at this, they caused this in the beginning to set our frequency so low that we could evolve or do nothing and take everything away from us. Now they're getting a dose of their own medicine. And I understand, I'd be laughing too, because they're going to disappear or die. Here's the thing, Alfred. If you got a radio and you turn the volume to the max, and that frequency point of a third dimensional, which they are, you cannot compete. You cannot not exist.
Well, and their brains and their natural resonant frequency of lower 4D, to use your analogy, the higher you go up the frequency scale, their brains and their bodies will not be able to tolerate the frequency. It'll just kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no emotion about it. It's just that it will kill them. They literally won't be able to tolerate the new frequency of this planet. But the other thing that you said about Mother Earth, and I've used this analogy before when teaching, this is, for lack of better words, this is a feminine planet. And just like any woman who is about to give birth to a being, she has to go through, her body has to go through the preparations before giving birth. She has to experience labor pains. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what this planet is going to experience, is labor pains in preparation to birthing herself as a higher dimensional world.
Exactly.
I see. I'm going to kind of, ask questions perhaps from a very unusual point of view. Now, there's certain quarters that are out there that are in which ascension is now a non-PC word. It's falling out of fashion.
Yeah, I don't use it. I've never used it, actually.
Yeah. So what other word than ascension? Because I know people watching this, when they hear ascension, they're going to be on that YouTube comment thing and they're going to be going,
right.
Okay.
Alfred, when I tell my guys in the meetings, we're moving up like the Jeffersons.
like the
That would be Raymond. That would be East St. Louis, right?
Okay.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
So what kind of language or what concepts would you have, for example, Tolec, to describe what's happening now? What is this process?
Oh, sure. I for the record, Mr. Chairman, for the record,
Okay.
I go on the record by saying that I have, since the very beginning, used the word when that moment, that apex of all of the necessary transition events have happened. That's the moment of transformation, because there is a transformation from 3D organic, blood, bones, dirt, mountains, cars, streets, all of those things that are artificial, but that the organic actually becomes a higher frequency vibratory rate. Right. It transforms from one vibratory rate to another. I've always said that. I also have always used the nomenclature of this is a time of transition. Just like when a young boy goes through a few years of really screwing up, or a young girl goes through the necessary physical changes that she makes from being a girl to a teenage young woman to a woman. Those are times of transition. That's what we are in. We are in a time of transition. Those are the words I use.
Right. Now, and the model I think that I hear is that we're not only going to a higher frequency flesh and blood avatar,
Right.
But we're moving up to a different state. What is that new state that you're saying that we're moving to? Is it crystalline? Is it?
Yes.
Is it right now we're carbon based, aren't we?
Right. Going to a crystallized base.
Yep, that's correct. And I stand by all of the things that they told me back in 2011. Higher dimensional people that thrive in whether you call them higher densities or higher dimensions, they have completely different natural gifts than we do. And that's the direction that we are heading. We are going to become illuminated, at minimum, illuminated mid-level 4D humans. And as 4D humans, we will have clairaudience, clairsentience. We will be able to levitate things. We'll be able to levitate ourselves. Our eyesight will be incredible. But more importantly, these organic bodies that we have now, we will no longer have.
Right.
These bodies will be bodies that are natural to the higher dimensions, and these bodies will be comprised of crystalline, fine essence matter. You could also call it spirit-based matter.
I see. Now,
But the thing you want to say in this too is, if you are not ready to transform or advance, in other words, if you are loving and done a lot of good, you're ready to go. If you're a murderer, you ain't going nowhere. Okay.
Right.
You have a chance for like these people that don't care, don't give a shit. Okay. They'll have a shot. There'll be a planet in Earth like out there, a transition space for them to still have a shot of becoming fourth the 4D crystalline. And then there's people that want to just stay third dimensional. There are star people out there that these planets are going to go through the same thing. You just can't do it on planet Earth. There will be no 3D Corbin on this planet, period. You're not going to exist because of the frequency. You're going to die.
Right.
But
Now,
here's the thing, Alfred. Tolec will agree to this. If you're not ready to become that fourth dimensional crystallized being, you can't advance.
Right. Nobody can push anyone to do something they're not ready for.
Yeah. We don't make the rules, Alfred. This is the way that it's kind of like going from high school to college to the university in a human way, but out there as the star people with greater dimensions of degrees, like my George's 13th and 14th. We're just talking high school fourth D here, just to start. And you can advance to fifth if you want, because the way. Oh, go ahead.
No, go, sorry.
The way I hear in the sixth dimension, we have no body, we are no form, and there's no bad. Fourth and fifth, you still got bad, good and bad.
Yeah, I like you. I've learned that, and from what I understand, in the upper vibratory levels of the fifth, people want to travel. They don't need ships. They just compress their energy bodies into little balls. Most of the times that people on this planet are seeing, and they get all excited about orbs, blue orbs, orange orbs, red orbs. These are beings. These are beings that have just shrunk themselves down to basketball size or softball or baseball size, and they're scooting around the world. They're just watching us and enjoying watching us go through our trials, and that's just the way they travel. It's an easy way for them to travel, because keep in mind, we, as an example, Alfred or Raymond, these bodies that you have, the totality of your soul is not animating that body. There's like one slice of the totality of you that's animating this body.
I agree.
And the rest of you is huge. It's enormous. I would come to understand that they're far more than even their body or their soul essence that's animating this body. They're aware of the higher dimensions, the higher versions of themselves off doing other things. Is that accurate? Have you talked to people like that? I don't know, but I anticipate that you probably have.
Now let me ask you this, and there's no reason to think that you have been admitted to this, but have you ever seen or been admitted to the process of transformation from 3D to 4D crystalline?
Are you asking me, have I ever watched the process?
Yeah. Did they ever take you to watch it, or do you know a planet?
No.
You know, say not Earth, but that planet over there, planet XYZ. Well, that planet was a 3D planet up to well,
no.
Now it's a crystalline planet.
No, I have not. I have not. The one thing that I'm aware of is, and here's one of those confirmation moments. I think you'll appreciate this, because we're looking for corroboration on different levels.
Right.
If you'll remember, back in November of 2012, I did a video production that was titled, I'm going to paraphrase, December 21, 2012, what will happen? It wasn't a question, it was a statement. And in producing that video, I did it because a lot of people were theorizing as to what would happen, and I simply said, okay, I'm going to talk to my guys, and they're going to tell me what they know about what's going to happen to planet Earth in this time frame of December 21, 2012.
Right.
I think the video production was about, I don't know, 23 or 24 minutes long. The point to this story is that one of the major pieces of information that my Andromeda Council contact piece gave me that was actually shared by the scientists of the Andromeda Council was the following: that in this time frame of December 21, 2012, there would be an infusion of energetic waves from space into and through planet Earth, and it would, for lack of a better word, radically change the nature of the substructure and the frequency of the inner core of this planet. Okay? And since my people have a good sense of humor, I said, well, what are they calling it? And he said, well, they're calling it SAR. I went, SAR. And they said, yes, because you people would call the energy of a star or sun, you would call that a star, wouldn't you? I said, well, yes, of course. They said, well, this is the first time that a 3D organic body has had its inner core energy changed to one which is very, very similar to that of a star or your sun. Very similar. So we're calling it SAR. And I went, okay, I'll tell the people you're calling it SAR. Great. That was released in the late November 2012. We're going to fast forward to about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. A friend of mine back in Tucson, Dan Brock, trained nuclear engineer, trained environmental engineer, went to school, had his mechanical engineering degree. Bright man, warm, just a good, kind human being, has his own gifts and skills. Dan Brock. Dan contacted me and he said, hey, have you heard about this conversation that happened between Linda Moulton Howe and these physicists? I went, no. He said, you got to go take a look at it. I said, okay, why? He said, well, because she's having conversations with physicists over at, I think, Stanford out in California, and others that are saying that the core of the Earth has changed. The energy at the inner core of the Earth has changed, and these scientists can't explain it. And they're saying it's very much like the sun. I went, confirmation.
That is confirmation.
Yeah. And they said, and here's the coup de grace. They said, we've been tracking this kind of stuff for like 3 years now, and we still don't understand it. I went, case closed. I'm done. Time to go off planet. It was beautiful.
That is confirmation.
Oh, it's amazing. I was floored. I think I called Ray. I'm like, Ray, you got to hear this.
Well, my understanding is that there's a crystalline or some kind of race that lives in the sun or on the sun, and they're very advanced beings. We would consider them godlike, or kind of the white brotherhood.
Yeah.
So they have to be in some sort of etheric dimension, either crystalline or beyond. Correct?
Well, I can tell you categorically that the sun is not just the sun. The sun is not just a star. Just bear with me here till the noise goes away.
Sure.
Okay. But that it also functions. It also functions as what people might call a wormhole or a stargate.
Right.
There are higher dimensional beings that simply attenuate the frequency of their ship to the same fluctuating frequency of the sun. So you get like meets like. And they just go from wherever the coordinates, they come through a stargate, enter through our sun, pop into our solar system.
There's portholes behind the sun. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I've never ever heard of beings living in the sun or on the sun, but if they're at the same frequency of the sun, sure, why not? It makes sense. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is this, is that if the sun is populated with a certain higher order of beings, then if we're getting ready for the Earth to be populated with a higher order of beings, then it's perfectly logical that the Earth would start transitioning and transforming to become more like the sun, and that's part of its state change. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Right. Plus the energy that's going to be blasted through the sun on this planet, that's going to help. The sun's going to play a big part.
Oh,
But you're
yeah.
right with what you said.
Yeah, the sun is the interdimensional portal, and this planet, if we're going to be in middle 4D, that means this planet's going to be in middle 4D, so it's changing. Now, if it's changing, it means we're changing.
Right.
And
you know, and so it means that you're having stratifications right now, which is what I'm experiencing. And by stratifications, I mean as follows. Let's say that you have frequency ranges, and all of a sudden there are discrete distinctions of frequency ranges among humans. And whereas before, you know, people kind of melded together like a soup, now there's more distinctions. Those who are saying, well, we're going to stay in 3D, they're kind of separating, and they're going off into their own leaders, they're going off into their own values, they're going off into their own, you know, their own realities. And those who are going off into the more higher frequencies, we're off into a place where the other ones don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Right.
that's true.
Does that make sense to you? And it's a frequency distinction.
Absolutely. You're saying the right stuff.
Yeah, I've also heard, which I hadn't really considered before, but it kind of makes sense when you look at it from the perspective from which you're addressing this topic. I've also heard that when all of these kinds of changes pick up an even greater pace, and it's no longer a question, it's becoming so obvious to the greater majority of people on this planet that there are changes happening, that's when, for lack of better words, the mainstream is going to start turning to people like you, Alfred, and other people that have been doing shows and interviews like this that have been exploring these topics. They're going to go, who do you know that we can talk to so that we can better understand this phenomenon?
The wizard.
Right, yeah. Mr. Wizard, you know. No, but seriously, I mean, I would anticipate, and I don't know who said this statement, but whoever said this statement to me made a lot of sense, because there's got to be sort of this juxtaposition, this point where, the powers that be, who are not necessarily trying to keep things the same, but just sort of the people in, local councils, local state government, the people in their hometowns and their states, and they're like, uh-oh, this thing's happening so fast. Who do we talk to? Who knows what's really going on here?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is the normal people that are curious, that are going to start trying to get a handle on all of this, they're going to turn to the alternative media, like yourself and others, to try and get answers. Because what will happen likely is the mainstream media and the mainstream powers that be, they're not going to tell them squat. They're going to give them
Well, they're going to be, it looks like there's going to be a series of different publics sharing the earth, except are there going to be 2 or 3 different earths? You follow me? Are we splitting off into different dimensions? And did your people, Tolec and Ray, talk to you about this?
Can you ask that question again differently?
Yeah. In this process, it seems like we are moving not into a higher dimension, but we're moving into different dimensions. a certain portion of humans are going into an upper dimension. Another portion of humans are going into lower frequencies, or,
Oh, okay.
you know. And
Yeah.
so there we've got two groups, but we've got one planet. Is the planet going to shift? Is the planet going to split into two dimensions?
Really, they have.
Where there's a fourth dimensional Earth, and there's a three-dimensional Earth, and so all of a sudden they kind of magically split. Is that what's happening? Have your people talked to you about that?
Raymond, go ahead. You answer, and then I'll pipe in.
It's really the way they have it set up to start people for the benefit of all humans on planet Earth. Whether me and Tolec will be on some of the page with this and maybe not. And I'm not trying to say I'm playing God here over you, Alfred, or Tolec. There's an Earth-like planet that they found the size of Jupiter that has never had any human life on it, much less ET life with some animals. That will be shared with other star people and humans. Third dimensional, not on this planet Earth. For the reason that they've looked into this, which we've been talking about, where the frequency is, they have to, whether they come down here in a mothership or go on other ships to get these other star people, to take them to that safe haven, as you may, Earth-like. And then for the ones that, like we are, ready to go, we're here. We're ready to advance. We are tired of all the bullshit, okay? We don't want to live third dimensional no more. We know what's going on. We want to live a better life for our families, future kids, all this, yada, yada, yada. And then you got the people, because it comes down to this. It's not a perfect world. You got people, just like when they give the comments, when Tolec speaks, you speak, or I speak, you've read the bad comment. That's all these people got to do. They don't give a shit, okay? They are the lost ones. We're going to try and save them, grant you. But then you got the people on this planet that have no idea what the hell's going on because of the fear factor, just like we were talking earlier, you know, the artificial Twitter little guy and all this others, that's putting fear into these people because they have no idea what's going on. So you got a lot of different situations here. And then you got the people that are ready, loving, and know what they have to do in order to become this 4D crystallized being that we're going to be in the most greatest world ever on this planet, like we should have been a long time ago. But everybody's going to be separated, and some are going to die.
I see. So this is kind of a separation point, because I'm really experiencing that of people going into different frequencies. Yeah, and I'm not, I'm not assigning blame. I'm just observing.
I agree what you're saying. You're having changes yourself.
Yeah,
I'm having changes. I think Tolec's probably having changes. A lot of people are.
Yeah.
Because we feel what's supposed to happen. The process will be slow until we get to that journey, whatever year it may be. I don't know.
Tolec?
Go ahead, Tolec.
I absolutely agree that we are in a time of more progressive change.
Yeah.
I would never, at least me personally, in the way that I speak or the way that I teach, I would never advocate that somebody look to the Andromeda Council, aka the Galactic Council, or anyone else as a savior. They're not here to save us either from something or from ourselves. They are here as, if you will, kindred brothers and sisters to help us through this transformation, this time of transition and the ultimate transformation of this world.
Mm-hmm.
I I want to answer your question, Alfred. I think it has a few answers. I have never been taught from my Andromeda Council of Contact people that this world will kind of, I don't know, shimmy away or segment itself so that at the moment of transformation, you have what remains a 3D organic Earth, and all of a sudden there's a new birthed 4D, mid-level 4D Earth. That's not the way it's been explained to me. What has been explained to me is that there will be a moment when the consciousness of the people on this world, in terms of literal spiritual awareness, as well as social consciousness, will hit its peak. And at that moment, the cosmic changes will trigger, and then the planet will transform into being a mid-level 4D world.
Right.
Was organic, will become higher level 4D, crystalline-based.
I agree.
That's what I've been taught. What Raymond says about people having the choice to, if they really want to continue to live 3D lives, yes, there is a planet about the size, what we would think of as Jupiter, about that size. If we look at the Milky Way galaxy and think of our location of this solar system, think of the Milky Way as a clock face, and this solar system and this galaxy sits at around, I think it's like 7 o'clock. If you will, of the arm of the Milky Way galaxy. We're kind of like down around 7. This planet, this Earth-like Jupiter-sized planet, is somewhere up around 10 o'clock location-wise. And there's supposed to be a variety of methods to help transport whatever people that want to go to this alternate virgin 3D world. If they want to go, God bless them. They have the opportunity to do that.
Right.
And it's nothing less than a choice.
Exactly.
Do you want to continue to live a 3D organic life? If you can go ahead and do that on this alternate 3D world. There may be other 3D worlds as well. I don't know. I'm sure there are, but I just know of that one. But everything that I've been taught indicates that this world will transform from organic to spirit, essence, matter, crystalline, completely different.
Yeah.
That's what I've come to believe, because every time I ask about this, the answer is the same. It's consistent.
Okay.
And that may help. The answer is always consistent. It's like, no, your world's going to change.
There we go.
There will be precursors to that change. There will be trigger events to that change, but your world's going to evolve. It's the nature of life. Oh, and moreover, I learned just within, like, I don't know, sometime within the past year that each galaxy, the solar systems within that galaxy, each star and each planet all have an evolutionary blueprint.
Mhm.
And there are harmonics and frequencies that may be different on a planet by planet and star by star basis. But I've been taught that all of them have an evolutionary blueprint pattern. I guess the one thing certain about life is that it will change, it will evolve.
Right.
Right. This is the longest panel that in Exopolitics TV history today. So time flies.
I hope that's good.
Fun. And so we've come to the end of the time for this segment, but I'd like to ask you each. First, Tolec, is there anything that you have wanted to say to our viewing audience that you haven't had the opportunity to say?
Oh, I have, boy, I've said so much since you offered me the opportunity to speak in August of 2011. And I remember saying, you want me to do what? You want to interview me?
Yeah.
I will say I feel really blessed. It's been an incredible journey to learn what I've learned about the work that I've been here to do. I think one of the more touching parts of this experience for me is to know how I have positively affected so many lives. I can't even begin to tell you how that feels. I could have, if you had asked the 30 some odd year old version of me 20 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have said, who are you? Who have you been talking to? What? I mean, Alfred, think of your own life,
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I can say that it's been an incredible journey, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be having some experiences that I could have never predicted, because on August 16th of this year in Pagosa Springs, and in August 19th through the 22nd in Mount Shasta, California, I'm going to be speaking live in front of people that I've never seen before, never met before. And I'm sure that those experiences will catalyze me into having other experiences I've never thought were imaginable. So I guess to summarize, thank you. Thank you for being such a gracious host and having me as a guest. And I feel really blessed. I feel blessed to have this experience in my life.
Oh, great. And by the way, for people who would like the further details of that, you can go to Tolec's website, which is andromedacouncil.com.
Right. There are two promotional write-ups, if you will, press releases. One for the Pagosa Springs event, and yet another one for the Mount Shasta event. And they're both in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Very easy to see, very easy to find.
Excellent.
So thank you.
Thank you. And Ray, I'm going to ask you the same question. Is there anything that you have wanted to say to the viewing audience that you haven't had the opportunity to say in this program?
Yeah, especially for the panel you have. You're a great host, Alfred. And you probably picked the best two contactees that have really helped a lot of people. And Tolec is definitely, for everything he's done, I commend you. I've been a follower of yours, and now I'm kind of doing a little bit, not quite as much as you. And I honor you, Tolec. And the other thing I want to say is this: for your listeners that are new, and some that aren't, we're going to go through this together. We're all in this together, okay? But I hope everybody can go into the next level. I know that it probably won't happen that way, but we have a lot of smart people that are really going to make it kind of simple and easy for us. They're going to kind of walk us through this. They're going to help us. There's going to be some bad things happen. There's no doubt about that. Because Mother Earth is going to do her thing. And then again, you got the people running the show down here that's going to try and do things. But, just stay with this. Listen to people like Alfred, Tolec, myself, a few other people that are telling the truth. Okay? This is what this is about. These people are real. These two people and myself are pretty honest people down to earth. And, it's just been a great education, a great ride. And to know you two guys, I'm in awe. And if somebody told me 20 years ago where I would be, I'd laugh. So it's been an honor, Alfred. And it's still going for me, still going for Tolec. And we will carry on to do our mission, and hopefully everything turns out for everybody. And God bless you, Alfred. You are the wizard, and thank you again.
Oh, well, thank you for that. And if people want to get in touch with you, Ray, how can they do that?
They can go on I have my email, if you want me to give that. It's CasiBaby47@gmail.com. I have my meetings once a month at CJ Muggs, and I'm on Facebook. And a lot of the shows that I do are put on my Facebook. In the future, I'm going to start taping my meetings. Probably the next two won't, but when you guys come on October 5th, hopefully I'll have that taped, and then everybody will see the meetings from there on.
Good enough. Well, I feel very honored to have been able to host you both, Tolec and Ray, on this panel. I feel it's a very important panel at this time. And I really want to commend you both for your dedication and for your work. And I look forward to your being able to join us again in the future as events develop and as we journey through this process. So thank you very much.
Anytime. Thank you, Alfred.
Thank you.
Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.